Hey, Manchester Hooks at Auburn. This is the progress report for this is the
10th.
10,
10,
10,
10, 18.
10, 10, 18.
I can't believe it. Time is rolling by so fast.
And out there today it was 80 degrees. And folks, think how long it may be before you see that again. But treasure it, the Indian summer. I don't know what the Indians did for us, but they gave us Indian summer.
See, I don't count this as Indian summer. To me, Indian summer, it's got to get cold and then come back. That's the Indian summer.
Okay. I guess that is the traditional definition, but it was awesome out there today, folks. It was just, and the foliage is beginning. It's going to be an awesome foliage.
It really is
season.
A lot of color this year, it looks like.
It's going to be, and it's going to last a while, too.
You think so?
Oh, I do. I really
Take it
believe
from
this
Bob.
is going to be one of the greatest foliage seasons. And we have people coming from all over the world to join us, and I hope they do. They do for the foliage, and they do for the presidential campaign. So here we are. This is the second Wednesday in October of 2018, and we're really happy to welcome all of you. And if you want to participate, I'm sure you know the number is 640-3091, and we love to have participation from our callers. We'll put you on as soon as we can and be as welcome as we can be. But we are very pleased tonight to have with us a very fine. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. You have a POTUS report.
Yeah, I wasn't here last week, so it might have slipped your mind. But yeah, I did.
Well,
I come to begin the show with my traditional POTUS report. If you want to do it, Bob, you're the host. So
no, well, we're co-hosts. You go with the POTUS report.
Feels like I've been away a long time. All right, well, you know what? We will. I'll go very quickly because we want to spend as much time as we can with our fine guest, and we'll reveal that a little bit later. Teaser there. But this week for the POTUS report, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I try, although I don't always succeed. I try to bring in news and information about what's going on in the White House, the administration, with the man who currently occupies the Oval Office on a weekly basis that might have passed, gotten by you because there's so much coming at us every week. But this week I'm going to, admittedly, I'm going to do a little bit of an editorial kind of commenting on what we've seen over the past several weeks here. And the theme of my editorial is the new golden rule. And we heard it directly from the mouth of newly minted Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh last week. And it's something that we all learned in the schoolyard, and we've all learned it in our lives, every single one of us. And it goes like this. What goes around comes around. And certainly we are reaping the rewards of that phrase, and I call it the new golden rule because when you think about it, the original golden rule was do unto others that which you would hope they would do unto you. But the new golden rule is whatever they do to you, do it back in spades. And let me tell you, we're in a time, and we're seeing what goes around comes around. What went around was the election of 2016, and what we as people of good faith did or did not do, and what comes around is as a result of that, and what we got now is two judicial appointments to the Supreme Court, the dismantling of just about every good policy that our country has ever had, and tensions around the world. I heard a great line. I wish it was mine, and it was in a discussion I heard in my car, where a Democratic advocate, a Democratic consultant said, for the past 40 years, the Republicans have been fighting to take the Supreme Court. For the past 40 years, Democrats have been fighting against plastic. We have paper straws. They have the Supreme Court. I say it as starkly as I can. We need to mobilize. We need to get out, and we have a chance in just a few days. We need to get out and vote. And so that's this week's edition of the POTUS Report.
Boy, we surely do need to vote. There's no doubt about that. I haven't seen all that many paper straws, actually, recently.
Well, you'll be seeing them soon in a restaurant near you.
I hope so. Okay, there's the POTUS report on the progress report, courtesy of Mike Farley, who comes up with some dandies. And now I want to turn to our fine guest, Kevin Kavanaugh. That's with a C, not a K, folks.
Thank you, Bob.
Don't get confused. This guy is not being nominated to the Supreme Court. You're probably not even a lawyer, are you?
No, I'm not.
Well, there you go.
He just got on the show, Bob, and you have to start insulting him. Come on.
Well, I think
man.
that's a compliment. You say he's not a lawyer. In any event, Kevin Kavanaugh has come out and made a name for himself very rapidly. We had a Democratic senator who, for the first time in God knows how many years, Kevin, you probably can tell me, took over the control of Senate District 16.
Yeah, Scott McGilvery originally won it. That was in 16.
Yeah.
And sadly, he passed away, and then they had a special election. And I had a primary in June, and then there was a special election on July 25th of last summer. And I won
And you
that.
won.
I won.
Which was
I don't want to interrupt, gentlemen, but I have to interject here that prior to Scott McGilvery's excellent victory in his race for that district, our own Bob Backus made several valiant attempts.
Two.
And fought,
Neither of which quite worked.
fought brilliantly.
But,
the
I
point I'm
understand.
trying to make is it's a difficult district for Democrats. A very
Absolutely
difficult
right.
district. So it was
And
very special.
I have to say, Kevin Kavanaugh ran an awesome campaign, and he surprised me and probably a lot of people by his pretty definitive victory of that thing.
Very strong.
And you've now repeated it with 2 years ago, right? You were reelected 2 years ago, right?
No, this is my first full term. This will
Oh,
be my
this is
first,
your
yeah, the
first
special
full
election. So
term.
I finished out the term from
Okay.
16, and now this is my first full 2-year cycle.
Okay.
It seems so long
Right.
ago that we lost Scott, but
Yeah.
it's only been
Yeah.
a very short time. So much has happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great guy, great family too.
Wonderful
Just,
guy, wonderful
You
family.
certainly stepped into his shoes quite well, and you hit the ground running. You've certainly preserved
And proved
the
to be
kind
an-
of senator that he would have been. I
Yeah,
suppose.
thank you. I appreciate
and
that too.
an awesome campaigner. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why did you wait so long to get into electoral politics, and why are you doing it again?
Well, I first got involved as I'm an alderman in Manchester in Ward 1.
Yep.
And really, the frustration I saw from waiting for the state when we were trying to set our budget for the school board, for the public schools in Manchester, and waiting to see what the state was going to give us. And there's always less and less. And sadly, with Scott's passing, and then that position was open, and I said, wait, why don't we go for this and try to affect the spending at the state? I mean, we always cut spending to the cities and towns, and we make up for it in our property taxes. And,
That's where it goes.
That's where it goes. Yeah, and it's just, it's about time for the state to really let's even this out. So it's not just
Yep.
putting it on the property
Yep.
owner. Let's try to get some more funding from the
People
state
think
down
that
on
we
a
don't
local
fund
level.
things at the state level; they just go away. No, they don't go away. They do end up on
downshifting, right?
it's called downshifting. They end up on the
Townshifting.
property tax, which is the really broad-based tax that we do have in New Hampshire.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Which, by the way, is an income tax. People don't pay it with their property; they pay it out of their income.
Right.
People,
Yeah.
they call it a property tax, but you write a check. You don't send in the doorknobs and the shutters of your house.
Right. Yeah. No, and it's tough, and especially it's even.
When you're on a fixed
outside of the
income, for
state
example,
position. Yeah, it is, and you've got to respect the tax cap. But it's even worse now with. People talk to me all the time. It's about services. What do you want? But it's what we deal with in the city. So
Yeah.
we've got to go through it.
So you took on this special election, you won, and this is now your second effort to be reelected to this traditionally rather tough district for a Democrat.
Yeah, it's very tough. Out of the gate, it's 6% more Republicans than Democrats. So you've got to. So out of the gate, you're behind. So you've got to go out. I've got a lot of friends a lot of my family are Republicans, and you've got to reach out. And some of the more Republican towns, Hooksett is very Republican. I've been going
It
up there.
certainly is.
Yes, and I've got some great friends that I've known for a long time, lifelong Republicans, and they say, hey, we don't agree on issues, but you have the same values as us. And we're going to support you. And that's important to me because I'm a family man. My wife and Carrie and I have 3 kids, and all gone through the city schools, and two still at Central. And it means a lot because those are your friends that are going across the aisle that are voting for you. And the same thing with yard signs. I don't like to put them on public property. Sometimes
That's what I heard.
People go out.
I
and you
don't.
give
I
them-
don't see your yard signs out on the right of way.
I try
I
not
see
to
them
do
in
it.
people's homes.
If it means more to me if you take the time to put my name in front of your yard, and your neighbors and your friends coming over and your family are going to say, who is this? And it's very proud when someone says to me, put a sign in my yard. It means a lot, and it's just.
In every case, you get homeowner permission.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've had some people say, come take it down. I mean, sometimes, but,
Really?
Well, I mean, some of the issues I know we'll talk about tonight, I mean, people don't like a view, and it's just, hey, come and get it. I respect that, but it means a lot, and I'll come and get that, and at least have the conversation with them, and they know where I'm coming from. But the biggest point is that supporting and putting someone else's name on you. Like you talk about property taxes and the mortgage you pay, and you're putting my name out there. It means a lot to me because
Yeah.
I know it's not easy to do because it opens you up to ridicule from
Well,
your.
they say lawn signs don't vote, but the people who live in those houses
Exactly
do. And
right.
a lawn sign sitting at an intersection with nobody behind it
Right.
is just a lawn sign.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. So last time, who was your opponent, and who's your opponent this time?
Dave Booton. And,
Both times?
Yes, the last time and this time. Yeah, and he's a campaigner. He goes out there, and I know, like I was saying, 6% more Republicans. So we got to go out. We've going out every night. We're going out to an event, if not one, two. We're knocking doors and just talking to people, and that's what you got to do. And it's just growing up playing sports and coaching. It's just if you lose, and you tried the best you can, then you can accept it. But if
If you didn't do what
if
you
you
could,
didn't
you'd
do what you
feel
could,
bad,
then
yeah.
you're always second guessing yourself, and it's just
Yeah.
and honestly, it's more fun going out campaigning than it is legislating. I think.
I was going to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
the thing
Really?
is you're kind of campaigning, you're auditioning, you're asking for the permission to volunteer for $200 at every biennium to go
crazy, I know.
and put in all the kinds of time that a senator has to put in, deal with your constituent service that you have to do, and then get attacked for half the things that you vote on.
Well, and that's it is. But and someone asked me too, what are you going to do? What does everyone feel about the economy in the state? And I think it is going forward. It's positive, but my thing is, as a father of a 20-year-old, a 17-year-old, 15-year-old, what are we going to do to set them up for success? And what are we going to do for the state in District 16?
keep 'em here.
To keep them here is huge. I mean, we're doing some great things in the city to bring us some innovative companies in, but one of the big things is the rail service. That you have business owners, 110 business owners are saying we need this. I mean,
Well, we had a company down in Londonderry say we're moving out of here because we don't have the rail.
Yeah, and it's easy to say we don't have the money, but I mean, if you believe in it and you're going to make it work, let's find a way to do it, and that's progress, and that's how we're going to keep younger people here. And
It's become an ideological issue, though, a party line issue, it seems. Republicans are ideologically opposed to rail, and I've struggled to understand that. I don't think anyone in this room is going to help me, but
it's funny with me. And my background is I'm a blue collar telephone worker for 33 years. I'm a union employee, a business assistant business manager for Local 2320, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and I went into a Chamber of Commerce meeting last summer, and I'm thinking, they're not going to listen to anything I say. But the business owners, and what we agree on is there's so many things we agree on. I mean,
Rail
the
is
business
one, I'm
owners,
sure.
and rail is one. And they asked me about that. I said, I'm all for it. And we can go from Republicans to Democrats, and there's going to be issues we disagree. But let's concentrate on the issues we agree on, and we can get things done instead of. It amazes me, like you said, is the difference between the Democrats and Republicans. That was a party line issue, and business owners want this.
Really? Yeah, that's good. So you've been a senator for how long?
Well, July 25th of 17, I got sworn in August, so 14,
Just a
15
little over a
months.
year.
Yeah,
A little over a year.
half a term?
yeah.
How have you found the business of being a senator, and do you have any legislative achievements yet? I mean, you're pretty much a newbie, so it would be understandable if you don't.
I had some commission meetings today. One was Neil Kirk was the chairman, and I think he's had like his 17th term. I'm like, oh, I haven't completed one. So
He's not
it's
running this
amazing.
year.
He's not running, right? Yeah.
Stepping aside for at least temporarily.
But I tell you, it's like a living civics lesson for me. You know, I mean, you get someone like Lou D'Alessandro, Jeb Bradley, Donna Sousa, they get up there, and it's amazing to me to watch this. I mean, it's absolute honor. I mean, I get off exit 14 on 93, you look over and see the Gold Dome. It's just, I mean, it's an absolute honor to be there. And it's just, to be able to be there and, win or lose this time, it's just something I'll remember for the rest of my life. It's just, it's an honor. It really is.
It really, truly is. I mean, it's.
And it's a small group
Yeah.
too. You're working. Your caucus is very small, and the full Senate is also a very small group. I mean, you're side by side, almost like a Catholic school classroom in there with your desks. it's different than the House, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where the House is much more raucous and
Yeah.
and fluid. I think it's quieter in the Senate, and you
It's,
seem to
it's
have
pretty
to work
cordial. Yeah, there's
closer together.
sometimes it gets a little heated. People are passionate about things, but I sit next to Dan Feltus, who's a super guy. He's dialed into so many issues and such a
Oh, he's an amazing guy.
yeah, he's such a resource. It's great. I share a room with him too, down in the basement, right next to the smoking room. You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
And then right to the left of me is John Reagan. Everyone says, "Oh, be careful of him." But he's been, I mean, we disagree on a lot of issues, but we'll talk about things. We've come together on some issues. But the biggest thing is, I mean, things are flying through there. And I'm a newbie, and so I can say to him, "Hey, what's going on here?" And just to gives you a perspective of the process. Oh, we're going to do this, this, and this, and kind of walk you through it to make you at ease. And he's been a pleasure. At the end of last session, I just shook his hand. I said, "Appreciate all your help," and he said the same. Good luck. And I mean, and you can disagree. We can disagree on every issue.
Without
at least
being
you can
disagreeable,
respect
right?
someone. Yeah, and then let's go to lunch. You know, let's have coffee. And I think that's says a lot about a person.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Do you see a lot of that in the House? Maybe in the committee work?
Our committee's gotten pretty partisan, I'm
Yeah,
sorry to
really.
say.
That's
We had
That's too
we had
bad.
a fairly small event today, you know, an interim study. You may come up with a recommendation on an interim study bill, and it was unanimous. That was a nice thing to, and a big surprise to me. But you know, it's nice when that happens. Yeah,
And the other thing I go around, I keep on pushing working family issues. I mean, I know Democrat or Republican, we're all working people, right? And I love Jean Shaheen's speech from the Senate floor this week too, and or was it last time? I'm not sure, but when she talked about the Kavanaugh going through that whole process, and let's look at the process because this all it does is divide this country even more. It's just,
Yeah.
we've got to come up with something because it's awful. I mean, whether it's
Well,
state level or
There seem to be a lot of pressures, deliberate and maybe not, but a lot of pressures dividing people up. Some of them out there in the business world, this whole social media thing, it's a brand new thing, and I think we're seeing some unintended consequences
Yeah.
in the way things are shaking out, and people kind of all retreating to their own corners, and it's
and
It
you know,
concerns me
the
very,
media
very
divide
much.
is the worst of that, I think, and people just watch the channels that reinforce their own views. We should
Yeah.
have the fairness doctrine back, in my opinion. But
Well,
that's-
I agree with you, Bob. It feels really great. I admit it. I watch, left-leaning television opinion shows. I enjoy it. It does. It helps. It reinforces me. But I try to make it a point of watching the other side, too, because if you don't know what you're up against, how can you work for or against
Exactly.
Yeah.
it? You know what I mean? You got to know what's on the
understand
other
that
side.
opinion.
Exactly.
You may not agree with it, but listen to it
Yeah.
respectfully.
Right.
But it's you gotta. I think you have to make an effort to do that now. Whereas I don't. It seemed when I was younger, anyway. It seemed that it just came more naturally. I don't know.
Well, Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, and the
Exactly.
things they
That's
did.
a
it's
good
just-
example of that.
Well, I think that's a bit overstated, but
It is, but it's a good caricature that
It's
we
over
can
there.
use to identify what we're
Right.
So what are the main issues you're running on this time, Kevin?
Really, it's workforce development and job training. You talk to these same companies that are coming in here, they want to have something that they need a younger workforce. I mean, New Hampshire is an aging society. You know, we need younger people. We want to keep younger people. I'd love to
Right.
have my kids stay close and be able to visit them without flying all over or taking a 5 or 6 hour ride. You know, it's
Oh,
like,
go for it. I'm having to do that, so I'm envious.
yeah, but it'd be great. I mean, so the housing, we have to make more housing, affordable housing. Public schools and public safety is huge. You know, that's something that affects all of us. And the drug problem, I mean, it's just, I think we've got a good plan, and the numbers don't really show it, but at least we're doing things. And that's really where I'm pushing, really public education, public safety, and the housing. I think the housing is going to be key, and the rail service. We spoke about that, but that's something that's
Yeah.
going to help retain our younger workforce. I think
And
we
bring
can do
more
a
younger
lot.
people here to fill
Yeah.
the jobs that we've got.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that too is we can do a better job with the community college system. Not that they're not doing a good job. I don't mean that, but help them more and put some programs out there. And White Mountain Community College is a great welding program. These kids come out of high school and they go through this certificate program, and they're walking right into a great paying job with benefits and a pension.
And a
We
job
can
that's
do
hard to
that.
outsource, too.
Yeah, right, yeah. So there's things we can do here. I mean, the trades, apprentice programs. There's a lot we can do that, I mean, I think a four-year school is great. I didn't go to one, and it's great if that's for you, but it's not for everyone. And I think we've got to help young kids that want to maybe not take the traditional, I hate to say the traditional path, because I think that's what we always say, the four-year colleges, and we shouldn't.
No, that's right.
There's a bunch of my friends that are calling me just because their sink is leaking. You know, it's just little things that some people, whatever profession you're in, don't use a screwdriver or a wrench, and we need plumbers, electricians, and
Oh, we do.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
certainly do.
Even with the Army project, I mean, I think that's some great programs we had this year. We're bipartisan with Jeb, and bringing people who come in here and work for, I forget the amount of years now, and they'll pay off their college loans. I mean, there's things we can do.
Yeah,
to work
that's
together.
an idea that's been a long time coming, and it's
That's a huge
fantastic
draw.
that here
Yeah.
we're actually implementing that through legislation. We'll see how that works.
Right.
I can't see how it can fail, but I guess we'll see how it works.
Yeah, right. And I mean, talk about if you do that, if you go to that company as an employee and they're taking care of you like that, boy, you've got a dedicated employee too. That's
And in today's quote unquote gig economy, I think we need to get back to some more stability, some more establishment. These new technologies, and the fact that that Army project is here in Manchester, I still don't think that we're screaming loud enough about how wonderful that is.
Yeah.
Because I really cannot see how we can go wrong with that. And what I'm thinking is we're in an economy that it was, I have to say, it wasn't born in 2016. It took a lot of hard work and maybe a bumpy albatross-like takeoff, but that the economy was up and running, but it has really kicked into gear, and I think perception probably has more to do with that than reality. But imagine if we had the train now.
yeah, Right.
We're unable to take advantage of that because we weren't forward-thinking enough 20 years ago to be like every other city the size of Manchester in the country
Right.
and have rail service.
yeah.
We're the
The
only one that
biggest,
doesn't.
the only one, the biggest area in the country that does not have that. It's incredible. And I was down
That
at
is amazing.
yeah, I was down at a
And
conference.
it's not a good thing.
No, a couple weeks ago in Boston. I haven't been there in a few months, and absolutely amazed at the work going on. That's great.
Well, the new
great.
state
Not
bird
that-
of Massachusetts is the crane.
That's right. That struck me too, because I saw kind of this is
There are
some
so
work.
many cranes, let me tell
Yeah,
you.
and I'm not saying that the rail service is going to do that to Manchester, but I think it's going to give people a good option to either come to Manchester or go south.
It goes both
Instead of-
ways. It
right.
really
Yeah.
does. People who want to work in Boston and live up here, and likewise people who might want to live closer down to Boston and commute up here to work. Not
Right.
to mention
And there's
the
good reason
occasional
for them to
weekend.
do that. They can get much cheaper housing and,
Mm-hmm.
some nice things here in this city, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's some great things going on downtown. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I was talking to this young woman 2 days ago, and she's living right down here. She said, that's great. She goes, sometimes the weekend it's too loud, but it's like, oh, that's great. That's activity. It's good,
You weren't here 25 years ago.
Yeah, that was a different loud.
So what are the top issues that you're actually running on in your campaign this time?
Well, just that. The biggest thing, I think we've got to help working families. And just the same woman that was talking to me about a Republican that shares the same values, it's about what we do for, how are we going to help working people, and what are we going to do to help our kids in the future? And that's the biggest thing.
So this, I
already
think,
talked about-
invokes a strong support for strong public education at all levels, including, college and post-college.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the college system in New Hampshire is doing great, but the amount of money these kids are coming out with the debt. And I
Yeah.
don't know how they can overcome that. It's
I
just,
know it.
it's just, over $100,000.
Do you think as the state of New Hampshire, what can we and should we do about that? This terrific student debt
How
problem.
about funding our own state colleges a little bit better?
Yeah, start there.
I mean,
and
I,
then-
when I was in the House, I think we tried to raise funding, and then it fell off right after in 2010. I think it was the 2010 election. They started gutting the funding to the UNH system.
Yeah, I don't know. Scratch my head at that. I don't know why that should be something we invest in. And the more money you can give them, the better it would be for our kids. You look at the amount of kids. I
mean,
forget the number. There was some a meeting they had up at Keene State this past spring I went to, and the amount of kids from the state that leave and the percentage that come back is so much smaller. So we're
Well,
if
the
we can keep
out-of-state
them here-
tuition in other state colleges is less than the in-state tuition here in New Hampshire.
Yeah,
It only makes sense.
right. Yeah.
I mean, when you start talking about these tremendous student loan debts, you know, I think the whole country has to kind of rethink, quote unquote, traditional higher education. This whole system that we've got in place here in New Hampshire now, where you can go into the community college for 2 years and roll it right into the UNH system. If the UNH system were a little more affordable, that would be an even better program.
And there's so
wouldn't
many businesses out there that want to partner with people coming out of high school and then getting them in to some kind of maybe 2-year program with a college or even a 4-year, and that curriculum they use to get them right into a good paying job with less debt. And businesses are willing to do that. We've got to, I think we can really kind of marry everyone and tie everyone in together, and that could
Do
be a
you think
success.
we're funding our government properly? Do you think we have the revenues we need at the state and local level? Or how
Well-
would you address that?
I think with this, the budget the governor had this past, I think you're giving tax cuts to the top, 3% of wealthiest corporations. First, they're saying they're not even asking for them. They'd rather have workforce development. I think we can do that and give back to communities. And I mean, there's so many tax cuts that are going to the wealthy and the corporations. And we can look at that and adjust that and give that to working people, and not just working people, everyone, but reinvest that money into developing our workforce.
What has been your main emphasis you've been in there almost, well, a little bit more than a year, right? You've been a senator.
No.
It's tough to get a lot done when you're just in your first year, but what have you been mainly concentrating on your first year as a state senator, one of 24?
Most of it was the workforce development and job training. And I was on the transportation committee, and it was the last meeting. I thought we had the rail service too, and talk about feeling like a newbie. I was, we're great, and then it got pulled. It's just they had the votes, and it's just which. I mean, I get their argument. It's just for this city, and I disagree with that 100%. It's great for the entire state economy, even if not, if you go in a 40-mile circle around where the last stop is, I think it's going to help that whole area, just like the airport. It's just so that
Which, of
That's
course, the
frustrating.
airport people strongly support the rail, of course.
yeah.
And they know how important that could be for further development of their operation.
And I wonder if we had to show a license or something like we do to vote to prove you're from Manchester to take the train. I wonder, maybe we ought to do something like that. If it's like saying, I only want to pay to the fire department if it comes to my house.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous stuff. But we get that up at the State House all the time. The city. I was almost going to use foul language, but the city is not treated well by the state legislature.
No, and it's too
Never
bad
has
because hey, sometimes even the school voucher program that would have been devastating to the city schools in Manchester.
And
Everywhere. Look at Bow and Hooksett. It would have been
public
terrible.
kindergarten, paying for public kindergarten. We had our state reps from Manchester who's been paying our own public kindergarten for years vote against the state paying for public kindergarten.
Yeah.
And for ideology.
Right.
And yet, they're out there asking for people's votes again.
Yeah.
If that's the ideology they want, they can vote for your opponent, I guess.
Right.
But it's crazy
Yeah.
talk.
But I think you're right with that too. The Manchester gets a black eye with things, but I was born and raised in
Now,
Manchester.
let me tell
grew up there, and-
there's a lot of people from the towns coming in. Not everybody that's that our safe stations is taken care of is from Manchester. Not everybody that our
Oh, no.
EMTs are serving is from Manchester.
Right. Yeah.
We take their problems, but when we need a little help from them, it's nothing.
Right.
So I'm glad we have a strong voice like you up in Concord, at least advocating for us, even though you're quite outnumbered. You mentioned you're on the Transportation Committee. What other committees? Senators are on more than one committee, right?
ED&A as well. Yeah. And that was busy. It was a good committee with Donna Susi and myself. Sharon Carson
What's
was the chair.
ED&A for?
Education. Oh boy, how do you say it? And
Executive Department's administration.
right. Yeah, sorry.
And so, but that's a very important committee because that's oversight over Department of Safety, huge department, Health and Human Services, right? That's the pretty much the executive branch. You're over.
There was a lot of
that's
it. We
the
dealt a
oversight.
lot with the. We gave retirees a COLA this year. again, being so new with this, it's incredible what you learn, and then seeing very varied with that. It's the COLA we were able to give to retirees in the state that came through there, and there's a lot of different things we do. It's a learning experience for me, that's for sure.
Expect to be in that committee again if you go back, or do you have another one you'd like?
I
to
like
choose?
both of them. You know, I like both the transportation ED&A, and it's just we'll see. I'm on 2 commissions as well. One was for the biometric study, releasing the information, and the insurance reimbursements. And
Okay.
it's funny. I thought they were going to be boring, but they're actually pretty interesting. So I guess
that could be, yeah.
you know what you're used to, I guess, and I'm used to those too. I'd like to stay on them, but a lot of that's going to be
Yeah.
what happens on the 6th, I think, too.
So one of the things I'm particularly interested in fact, we're having a press conference tomorrow, Kevin, in case you want to go up there at 10 o'clock. We're going to release a white paper to contest or to contrast with the governor's energy strategy update, which in my opinion was a woeful, inadequate, and backward-looking project. I mean, he wanted to count nuclear power as a renewable energy source. You can imagine how that went over with me. But in any
Oh, it's
event,
renewable. It stays forever.
yeah, that's the new definition of renewable. It lasts forever. But in any event, I was very disappointed. And I know you and the Senate did what you could to override the gubernatorial vetoes on 2 of these energy bills.
Right.
One of them was sustained, supporting the biomass industry. The one that I thought was going to be the easier one to sustain, which would have upped the net metering cap from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatt, somehow you overwhelmingly supported in the Senate, and we did not, by a narrow margin, support it in the House. And that would be enormously important for cities like Manchester.
Yeah.
You know, we have the potential for a huge gain in our solar renewable energy with the landfill up at Dunbarton Road.
That would be great. That whole area
And,
right
and
there
a
would
use
be
of property that's
super.
pretty much unusable otherwise. You
Yeah.
know, it would be really putting it
Right.
to work.
Yeah, and we could, I received calls from the neighbors across the street on Chauncey Ave too. We could make sure we turn them so there's not reflecting
They don't
back
want the
at them.
reflections, yeah.
Right, and we gotta be
Let's
careful
just
of that.
shine it right on their houses.
But, you know,
I
if-
didn't mean that, folks. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We won't do that. We won't do that. But it's crazy to me. You look at
Yeah.
other states and what they're doing, and we're voting that down. It's
Yeah.
and,
How
I
many
mean,
people would the project put to work here in Manchester? You know, and for how long?
I mean, like any construction job, you're going to have everyone coming in to build it, and you're going to still have people
People
maintaining and,
to run
and
it, yeah.
repairing everything you're going to do and monitoring everything. It's just, I mean, in the IBW, that's what it is. I mean, Northern Pass, I was for that. We were going to have permanent jobs with telephone people that we do the monitoring and carry Ethernet circuits that we run fiber to do that. Those are
Did you do that
permanent
work?
things.
Was you, as a union worker, was that the kind of work you did?
That was the last job I had. Special services it was more fiber optic and carry Ethernet service delivery, high data, big pipe. And it was great. And back to that with you can renewable energy, solar energy. Why are we reducing it in New Hampshire when everyone else is going more?
I could
It's just-
never understand the opposition to the project.
Which
because
project?
Northern Pass. And here's what I don't understand. I have no right to a view on land I don't own. If I own that land, then I can control it. But if I don't own it, how do I even think that I have a right that it'll never change on me?
I think with New Hampshire,
who am I to
we've
say
gotta-
that? I could never conceive of the opposition. Yes, I know beautiful land is beautiful land.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not yours.
Yeah. I think we've got to protect it. We've got to work to protect it, but it's just.
Well, yeah, there are places where you
But
can go
there's-
underground. There are
Yeah, and
design
that's where we gotta-
you can
right,
use. There are
yeah.
approaches and paths you can use in the
Yeah.
process. There's compatibility. It can be worked out, but
Right.
but it's the basis of this opposition being some sort of ownership of something you don't own. That's what just it baffled
Yeah,
me.
I think in
that
fairness,
people-
a lot of it in the beginning, there was so much of it was just aerial, and where they could put it underground, we should. You keep those views as much as you can. We've got to protect the environment. I get that, but boy, we need some help. I mean, you talk to business owners in the city, big businesses, manufacturing company that. The biggest complaint is the
Energy
cost of
costs
energy.
are-
Yeah.
So here's a
Yeah.
big energy project that does affect Manchester, And that's the Granite Bridge project from, the build a gas pipeline from
Right, yeah.
Manchester to Stratham with a big storage facility in an old abandoned quarry in Epping.
Yes.
Have you taken a position on that?
I'm for it. I
for
came
it.
out and met with them early, and I think it's good. I mean, you're again, you're hit with a lot saying you don't care about the environment. I love the environment. I care deeply about it. But if we can make things cheaper, and it's still going to help fossil fuels or oil burning homes, it can reduce that, and it's better for the environment if
Slightly
you use that
cleaner.
gas. Slightly cleaner, it is.
Slightly
I mean,
cleaner than clean coal,
not
too,
perfect,
I suppose.
right? Clean, yeah. So, but I'm for it. I think they picked the right corridor, and I'm for it. It's creating jobs that. Again, I was told those are temporary jobs, but no, there's permanent staff that are going to be there. I get it. The building part of it, it's construction. It's going to be temporary, but anything you build is going to still have to be maintained by people that you're going to add staff to. And I tell you, knock on the doors in Manchester in Ward 1, the first time
Yep.
I ran, there's a bunch of pockets up in Ward 1 that don't have any. They say, when are we going to get gas here? When are we going to get gas? I mean, people are asking for it. I mean,
Yeah. So they can get off propane or oil.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a very controversial one. So I'm
It is.
I'm
It
interested
is.
in your opinion on that.
Yeah.
I might as well bring up the other one that I told you I was going to bring up, and that's your support for retaining the death penalty.
Yeah.
I hope you may someday think about that again.
I got to tell you, this issue I met with more people about. It's very personal to people. It's a very emotional issue, and
It's
and
a
I agree.
moral issue.
It's a moral, yeah, and it's just I wanted to hear those other sides. I can tell you what I committed to, and I can tell you that day when Michael Briggs was murdered, and my wife was a runner. She was out with her friends, and they were running. They said, "Hey, something's going on. There's helicopters." And
I remember that day vividly.
Ah,
I
me
remember
too.
seeing the helicopter
Yeah.
in the air. Yeah.
And a cruiser pulled up to them. There was, I forget, there's a whole group of them, but I don't know if it was that day, but they said, ladies, you should go home. It's really not safe out here, which was awful. And a very good friend of mine, at the time he's retired, he was an undercover cop. She came home. I was still in bed when but she told me something's going on. We found out there was an officer murdered. I called him. You don't know. He was undercover. You don't know what's going to happen. And he answered. It was, thank God. And, going through the process as an alderman, and knowing the Manchester cops, and they're so close with Michael and his family, and I committed to them that I would stand by them with this, because they needed it. They asked me for it, and I committed to them for that. When I was campaigning last summer in the special election, I talked to people about that. I made a commitment to them, and we've spoken about this, and what do you do? And a lot of the people I spoke to with that, if I committed to you and I changed my mind, what do you have? Where's your credibility? And I honored that. So,
Well-
so that was, and I know, and it's
And Michael Briggs' partner who that night changed
met
his
with him.
mind on this.
right, yeah.
I think is he still up at St. Anselm as part of their security force? I don't
When I
know.
met with him this spring, he still was, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's,
yeah.
I mean, and it's not a good issue. It's terrible, because
Yeah.
it pulls friendships and families apart, and it
It
has.
certainly does.
And I give him a lot of credit for standing up for that too, because it's, I mean,
Yeah.
he's coming from the force and everything, and I know it's
Yeah.
affected him too, and it's an incredible story. I mean, I went to the I can't remember the name of the church, but it was they had something there last winter, and they had a priest come up to talk about it. And the more you hear, the more you can talk about it and see both sides, and that's. I mean, this is, like you say, a moral issue, but I think that goes. You got to listen to both sides on every issue.
I don't want to keep you on this, Kevin, because you and I are going to, I hope not forever, but at the moment we disagree on this. What do you think the death penalty accomplishes for the citizens of New Hampshire?
Well, for the commitment I made to the police, we have their back, and that's what it comes down to.
Can I know, Bob, we don't want to dwell on it, but I want to probe just a little bit deeper. And in your, because you've had these conversations, and regrettably I have not, but in your conversations with the law enforcement community and the families, and I'm trying to be very sensitive to where they're coming from, and that's what I'm going to ask. Is it because they feel it's deterrent? Is it, and I don't mean this pejoratively at all, but is it kind of a revenge kind of thing? Where are they coming from on this? If you've been able to glean that,
Well,
because I'm trying to understand. I'm with Bob on the issue, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the other
Right.
side.
I think I think they want to know. I mean, and I agree. I don't think someone's going to not shoot someone because they might get the death penalty. I think that might be a deterrent in prison. I really do. I think they want to know the support. I think when they leave their families, and they're going to know the state has their back in this. I think they're going to know that they. I wish I had a better answer, but it's
No,
just I
you-
think it's so personal, and it's so personal in Manchester because you came from this
Yeah.
city, you came from this force, and you're working close with these men and women when you're on the force, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just personal. I guess that's the best way I can put it. It's just a personal
I think I've
thing
gotten
that-
something from your answer anyway, some insight, and that's what I'm looking for, because it really is, it's a very personal issue, because as a matter of fact, and I don't want people to lose sight of this, it's an issue for someone such as myself, because as the state is issuing this punishment, it's in my name, in part, that it's doing it. So I'm part of it voluntarily or not, despite my moral compunction about it. So it's a very important issue, and I'm glad we had a few minutes to talk about it. I don't
Yeah,
want to dwell on it
it's
any
but
further.
there is in it, and I don't mind at all, and it is important, but it's just I mean, one thing in New Hampshire, not that it's doing that is right or wrong or right, but it's how many years has it been since we've done that? And a lot of the arguments were
1939,
yeah,
Kevin.
1939, and a lot of the people that I met with, they were wrongly convicted, and that hasn't happened in New Hampshire. I know the argument is there, but
But it could.
it could, yeah. I mean, close friends of mine, that they disagree, and it's
Well, you know, if the way I feel about it is if the state is going to execute someone in my name, they ought to do it proudly and publicly at noontime on TV. And I think if people had a glimpse of that, they
see
might
that.
change their opinion.
there's a lot.
That's the
I
way
mean,
they used to do it.
I
actually.
know that. I am not being cruel or unusual in what I say.
Yeah,
You know,
true. I remember reading the Goffstown town history. Goffstown's my hometown, and an account of a public execution in Goffstown. Apparently, it really happened. Yeah, well, anyway. Okay, well, let's go on to something else. Maybe we've blown right by our first break. Maybe we should take another break.
Well,
now,
why don't we
Pat.
take a quick? We'll take our
Take a
second
quick
break first.
and we'll
Why don't we do that?
Come right back and take another break. And folks, we'd love to have you participate in this discussion. We hope we've raised some topics that are of interest to you with a fine candidate running for his second term, plus a little bit because he had a special election. Kevin Kavanaugh running for Senate District 16, which is Manchester 1, 2, and 12, and 4 adjoining towns: Bow, Hooksett, Candia, and Dunbarton. The last one to report in is
The
Dunbarton,
northern suburbs.
the northern suburbs. One of 3 senators who represents the great city that we so enjoy being part of.
And that's another topic of discussion, but we'll hold that for another day.
We'll be right back, folks. Hey, everybody out there, Manchester, Hooks, Auburn. This is the progress report for the second Wednesday in October, 10/10, an 80-degree day in October. Pretty sweet. And the foliage is not bad either.
Gotta get those window units out of my windows, man. I can't keep having this.
And we are very pleased to have with us tonight an outstanding public servant, now serving, not even yet, I've just been corrected, he is elected in a special election which has not yet had a full term in the state Senate, but it's getting close.
And as I said, I want to interject, fairness just requires that at least you get a full term, so you really do need to get reelected this
Yeah.
time.
well, I wish I could just be given to me, but I know I got to work
Well,
for it.
I know you're going to work.
Full term for Kevin, not necessarily a second term for Governor Sanu. But we'll talk about that another time. So you did want to tell me, and I usually do this, but I have not really asked you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your personal resume, how you decided to, what your background is, and why you decided to get into electoral politics at the time you did.
Well, I mean, I was born and raised in Manchester, went to schools here, public schools. I mean, I went to Green Acres Elementary and then St. Joe's for 2 years, and then over to Memorial High School. And after graduating high school, I've coached many freshman football at West, freshman football at Memorial, and Babe Ruth baseball in Manchester. Just always involved. When my wife Carrie and I, Carrie's from New Jersey, and we met up in Laconia, and we were looking. And I said, I want to stay in Manchester. And I love it here. It's a great city. I mean, and I've always been involved and wanted to give back after. When we have 3 kids. My son Jack is 20. My daughter Riley is a senior at Central. She's 17, and my youngest son Miles is a sophomore at Central. He's 15.
Are they having a good experience there?
They are. They are. They were there during that lockdown too. They didn't like it, but they knew they were safe, and they were texting us and say, "You okay? Yeah, we're fine." It's just, but there was a lot of bonding in the classes they were in, and they got to know the kids in the class pretty quick.
That's not a bad thing,
Yeah, I mean,
not going like this, right?
right, and I really think everyone handled it great, and it's just so I.
Going to Central, I do not want to interrupt you. I want you to continue, but going to Central, it's a different experience than it was back when I and perhaps you were going to Memorial. It's a real diverse culture there, and they've got a great staff and crew. And they make the most out of it, I think.
It's incredible.
Excellent school to attend.
It's real. It's just living in society. They get experience what it really is like. And there's so many different clubs and sports teams that you can do outside, and not just sports but clubs. And it's super. And they love it. And my oldest son loved it. And, all his buddies are still. They played hockey there, and they still all get together. And my other 2, they have a great experience there. They really do.
So you've done a lot of sports coaching.
Yeah, and then Kara and I had kids, and we bought a house up behind the back room in Manchester, and we got involved. I mean, we've coached soccer, softball, baseball, ice hockey, flag football, lacrosse, and it's great because you're there with your kids, and you really get to know who they're hanging out with, who they're friends with, and that's important. And I tell you, the first time I was running as an alderman, you're not talking politics when you're at the Little League field. I was involved with North Little League for 14 years, I think it was. And then you start knocking doors, like, yeah, we appreciate everything you did. Or, yeah, Kevin coached my kid.
I think that's a real key to success.
Yeah, it is. And it's just,
I don't think you're the first Manchester politician that has come out of Little League.
Yeah.
Or sports coaching generally.
Right. But it's important. I mean, I love Manchester, and it's and the whole area. And it's funny. You go around the district, and it's different, but it's a lot of the things you talk about. I mean, public education, safety. People are concerned about this drug problem, and it's people. Like I said, they care about working families, but they care more about their kids and what's going to be left for them.
Well, speaking of families, you've talked about your family a little bit from one perspective. How do they feel about you saying, okay, I'm not going to be coaching Little League anymore with you guys. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to subject myself to slings and arrows of politics.
Yeah, I couldn't do this without their support. I mean, my wife comes door knocking with me. The kids used to do a little more when it was new. Now they're used to it. But you got to break it up. I still work full time, and I have to campaign, but you have to still make sure you have your family time and do things with them. And they see it, and they like it. You do a mailing, and some friends and teachers, hey, or texting the kids saying, we just got a mailing with your picture on it. So they like it. There's some things they don't. You get negative pieces about you, and that affects them, but you just keep it light. They're trying to throw dirt on you. That's sometimes what politicians do. I wouldn't do that. I think you talk about the issues. Disagree, but you can't control that. So it's tough for them, but I think it's a good experience for them because it's not easy in life, and you're going to be challenged with things, and it's good.
Well, a good example too. I mean, maybe you can comment on this a little bit, but my experience is without volunteers and people, getting outside of their ordinary earn a living day and stepping up, the city of Manchester would grind to a halt. But because of these people, we have a wonderful sports and cultural, and we have a thriving real city that we can be proud of. And
yeah.
I'd like you to comment on that.
I think you can't do it without volunteers. I mean, every organization you're in, sometimes you see the same people, but from coaching hockey to girls softball or baseball or any one of them, you rely on the volunteers. And sometimes you can, when the kids are old enough, you can take a breath and just, hey, I just got to show up and watch. That's kind of nice. It is nice, but but you can't do it without volunteers. And that is what a community is. And one of the last years, I mean, the numbers in baseball were declining and then we combined Manchester North Little League with Hooksett Little League, and they're doing great. And you see those families come together, and you always think Hooksett and Manchester aren't getting along. They're great. The 9-10s just won the state championship, and it's a success. And it doesn't matter where you live or what town you're from or city you're from. it's the community involvement and what you care about, and that to me is really the most important thing.
Does this give you some reason to hope that maybe we can get some Manchester Hooksett kids coming back to go to school at Central?
Well, it's going to start somewhere, right? And I think that wasn't the purpose we did it, but I mean, it could be a byproduct of it. I think when you see this, and my oldest son Jack, he's 20 years old, and some of his best friends are from Hooksett. They played hockey together growing up at Central, and they're still buddies. I mean, all my kids went to country learning. Mrs. Rice says that in Hooksett, and it's just so combined that I hope it does, because Manchester. I mean, when I was coaching football at West, I mean, we had a lot of kids from Bedford, and that was, that's not going to happen with the success in their high school, of course, but it's just the surrounding communities. I don't care where you're from. It's just when meeting with the parents of the kids playing any sport, it's the community involvement, I think.
Yeah.
And it shows their commitment to the community, which, it's because of their kids, but it's the community.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your campaign. I think, you really pleasantly surprised me with the success of your last campaign, having run in that district myself without quite getting there.
Yeah.
And to see you do it, I thought, wow, this is really impressive. And it seems like you're running a very impressive campaign this time. Tell us a little bit about it.
We're out there knocking doors and talking to people, and that's really the nuts and bolts of it. I mean, of course, all the digital media is good. People are always on that. And I have so many. We have a cat that's 21. So we had, my wife had a birthday party for just the cake, and so many people looked at that and said, that's great. But you show your personal side with that. But, it's funny, but you get out and show people who you are, and that's what we're doing. We're knocking doors.
Mostly
to
knocking
events.
on doors. Is that the heart of your campaign?
That's, I think, the most important part, but also events. We went to the Hooksett Parade, the Candia Parade, Old Home Day parades, and you march in those, and you go see people, and there's events, like I said, every day there's one or two we're going to. It's just
Really?
Yeah, it's funny
Every
how many.
day?
Yeah.
And how about mailers and media?
Yeah, the mailers we just started last week. That's going to be going out. We do a digital campaign that's going to be starting closer to the election. The money involved is incredible to me. For a job making and honestly, I never thought I was going to be in politics. But
I like to say you're all certifiable. That you would spend this much money to get a job that pays $100 a year.
Yeah,
Anybody that's that crazy shouldn't be elected. But
You're right.
Lots of people do it, and there's some really good
campaign
people.
budgets have really been ratcheting up here in New Hampshire. How long do you think before a Senate race you're going to have to get up on TV? Are we close to that, or?
I don't think so. I think in some of the bigger, like the congressional districts, I think it's important because it's so big, you can't knock those doors. And you can only...
You still think it's manageable in the state Senate districts? Are still manageable without going big media like that?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with social media you can. Like the congressional districts, I think that's too big. But
Speaking
yeah.
of social media, we want to give you a chance. If someone wants to reach out and find out about you or get in touch with your campaign and wants to volunteer, give us the rundown. You must be on Twitter and
Yeah, I can give you
else.
the website to the campaign is Kavanaugh, CAVANAUGH 4FORNH.com. So Kavanaugh4NH.com. The Twitter account is Kavanaugh at Twitter at Senator Kavanaugh. And the Facebook is Senator Kevin Kavanaugh. So grab any one of those. I need to write them down because I can't remember all of them. But it's good. It's fun.
But that's a way that you get, if people wanted to go on Facebook and friend you or something, or follow your Twitter feed, they'd be able to get constant updates.
Well, even a conversation. People have emailed or sent a message, and I'll call them back. I don't want to say they're all good. They're respectful, but they want to know where I am on an issue, and then we talk about it and give the reasons why. And but we'll call them back. It's funny. Some people just want to, hey, can we get together for a coffee? And we try to work that in anything. Anyone you talk to is important, especially when you're behind by 6 points out of the gate. You need
Who's behind by 6 points?
me.
Says who?
Well, it's a 6% more Republican district.
Oh,
so, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I thought maybe you had some polling or something.
Oh no.
No, that's
It's
not
just-
so bad.
Yeah, but it just shows you can't sit back and. The way I'm going about it is I'm behind.
No.
So you've got to work.
Did you
hard.
carry Hooksett last time you ran?
No, I lost that. Was it 160 votes maybe?
That's pretty
Well,
close.
that's a close call.
Because
for
that's
Hooksett.
usually the doom for Democrats in this district.
And they did. They put a poison pill in all three of our Senate districts. You got Hooksett, and in my Senate district, they threw Litchfield, which you can't get 4 Democratic votes out of Litchfield if you try. You know, I mean,
But you know, the thing that I love about having Hooksett there, but so many of my friends are there, and the Republican friends, and that, you know, but you still got to convince them to vote.
And that's the local aspect, as Tip O'Neill always said. All politics is local. And
Well, it's funny. One of my good friends, and I coached him at in Babe Ruth in Manchester. He said, "Cavi, I don't agree with you on one issue, but of course I'm voting for you." You know, but it's just because.
Well,
we're
the
local.
personal
We're
connections
local.
matter
Right.
more than the
Yeah.
issues.
Right.
Issues
Yeah.
are tissues, they say.
Yeah.
Actually.
But like I said earlier, it's just a lot of, you can focus on what you don't agree on, but there's so much more you do. Let's get together who we can agree, and
Yeah.
you know, we're not going to get there on the few issues that we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. So what can we look for in the next? Well, we're less than 40 days away. We're at what, 30?
26, I think.
Is it under less than?
Yeah, it's
30
under 30
days?
now.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't remember the number.
Under 30? My God,
27.
this calendar's
27.
marching on.
It is. You know, it's
Is
just
it
we're
going to be a
keep on
big,
going forward
big
with it.
wind up to your campaign here? What do you got? What do you got going?
Well, we're going to have a fundraiser for next Friday at Billy Sports Bar. So anyone come down, it's just
Okay,
yeah, we're
fine
gonna be-
place.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be knocking doors and reaching out to people.
Great.
Yeah,
Are you having fun doing this?
yeah. I like the
I think you do.
the campaigning is more fun than legislating. I think. It's awful, but
Win the seat and then resigns. You have to deal with all that crummy legislative crap.
That's right. No, but you're seeing people. You know, it's
Yeah.
so fun. There's
Yeah.
a quick story. Do we have time? It was last summer. My wife and I were campaigning and just knocking doors and opened the door for some people we haven't seen in years. The kids were playing baseball together and going to school at Smith Road School together. They said, "Hey, what are you guys doing? How's it going? We just made a batch of margaritas. You guys want to come in?" So we came in and just get to visit with them.
Oh,
for a
isn't
while, which
that
was
isn't
great.
that special when
Close-
somebody
close
invites
that
you
day's
in when you're
campaign.
knocking on doors? Usually think they want me to get away from you as fast as I
Right.
can, but sometimes it happens, and it's really great. Well, Kevin, this has been wonderful to have you with us, and I certainly wish you well.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having
And
me on. It's been a
really,
great pleasure.
really great. I hope this helps you out because we do get fiery airings, so
All right.
you can be out there, and we are ready to move ahead. I think next week, Mike, you'll be here.
I will.
Counting on it.
If the creek don't rise, and the good Lord's will.
And if we are here, and expect to be, we will have Colin Van Ostern, which is going to be a very interesting program because I guess most folks out there, and I hope they do, that Colin Van Ostern is running a campaign for Secretary of State to oust Manchester's own way long time incumbent Bill Gardner.
He's got this much smaller universe of voters than either you do, Kevin, or you do, Bob. His voters are
he
the
doesn't have to deal with
legislature.
33,000 people like Kevin does in his district. He has to deal with 424 legislators. And I think we'll also share some of that time with Gray Chenoweth, a first-time candidate who's made a really good entrance into the political scene, and he's running to succeed Chris Pappas as the executive counselor for this district that represents this part of the state. So that's what we're looking forward to next week, and in the meantime, I hope by then the Red Sox are doing as well as they did beating the Yankees.
Oh, geez, you know, Bob, I fell asleep in the 8th inning. I woke up. Their bases were loaded. The Yankees fans were going crazy. I couldn't believe it. But
Oh man, that was tense. That ninth inning was tense, guys. That was pretty harrowing, but the results were great. So, Kevin, thanks for coming down.
Thank
It's
you
really
both
very
again.
nice.
Thank you.
Good
I
luck
really
in your
appreciate it.
campaign.
Thank you.
I hope you pull through.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Bye,
See you next
folks.
week.